Let's face it, in today's enterprise, trying to keep up with the sheer volume of information, it feels less like staying informed and more like being buried.
Absolutely. So much noise.
You want to cut through it, understand what truly matters, and, act decisively.
Yeah.
That's really our mission today, to offer you, the listener, maybe a bit of a shortcut.
Okay.
We're diving deep into something called Glean agents. Could these be the key to not just accessing, but actually using all that knowledge locked up in our company systems?
That's the big question, isn't it? We've been
Right.
digging into this pretty comprehensive white paper from Glean. It details how these agents are designed.
Right.
And our goal isn't to get lost in like super technical stuff, but to pull out the core ideas and maybe more importantly, those aha moments.
Hmm.
How this tech could really change how we all do knowledge work and actually make an impact.
Okay, so let's get straight to it then. What are these agents we're talking about in practical terms?
Okay, so at their heart, these agents are systems, right?
Right.
They work pretty autonomously to hit specific goals you give them.
Hmm.
They figure out the steps needed, the workflows, they use the tools they have available, and crucially, they learn. They refine their approach over time.
Interesting.
And the white paper points out two main kinds: task-based agents and conversational agents.
Task-based agents. Okay, give me a real-world example. How would one of those actually work, and what makes it different from what we have now?
Right. Think about expense reports, processing those.
Oh, yeah. Fun times.
Exactly. So a typical system, like business process automation, it might just flag something that's out of policy and kick it up the chain, right? Pretty rigid.
Mm-hmm. Standard.
Now, a task-based agent, it can autonomously evaluate that report. It looks at past approvals, maybe your spending patterns, the current company policy.
So it has context.
Exactly. Context. For routine stuff, maybe lower value items, it can actually decide to approve it.
Wow, okay.
But it still has safeguards, guardrails for bigger or more unusual expenses.
So it's making informed decisions, not just escalating every single exception for a human.
That's the key insight, yeah. Moving beyond just flagging and routing to a system that gets the context and can make autonomous or semi-autonomous calls within, defined boundaries.
That feels like a pretty big shift from just shuffling things around.
It is.
And conversational agents, how do they give us a different kind of value?
Conversational agents are more about providing intelligence strategic support. Think advice, almost.
Okay.
The white paper uses this example of a sales rep. They're prepping for a big negotiation.
Right. High stakes.
Totally. So instead of just grabbing a static playbook, the agent can analyze their past successful deals, maybe intel on the competitor they're up against, how the customer's engaged before.
All that history.
All of it. And based on that, it can suggest specific negotiation tactics tailored to that situation. It's personalized, it adapts to the live context, and it can even learn from the rep's own successful moves over time.
That really changes how you think about getting expertise, doesn't it? Moving from static documents to something dynamic, adaptive.
Fundamentally,
Yeah.
Dynamic assistance.
So if I'm getting this right, task-based agents are about automating processes, but with some intelligence baked in.
Yep.
While conversational agents are more about giving that dynamic, personalized guidance in situations that are maybe more fluid.
Precisely. And what's really fascinating is the adaptability they've built in. They aren't rigid, they adjust to different contexts, learn individual user preferences even.
Okay.
That makes them super versatile for all the different kinds of knowledge work we all juggle.
Yeah, definitely. Now, the white paper also talks about agent-to-agent interactions. That sounds like it could seriously change how different parts of a company work together.
Oh, absolutely.
Mhm.
Think about how human teams collaborate,
Yeah.
right? Different people, specialized knowledge, coming together for a common goal.
Mm-hmm.
Agents can do something similar. They can tap into the knowledge and the capabilities of other agents, both internal company agents and potentially, down the line, even external services.
Wow.
It really shifts how we think about enterprise systems, moving away from siloed apps towards like a collaborative network of smart entities.
Can you give me a practical example? How might that agent-to-agent collaboration actually play out?
Okay, imagine a customer support agent. They're dealing with a tricky technical issue.
Right.
If it's beyond what they know offhand, instead of just escalating the ticket and waiting.
Which can take forever.
Exactly. They could collaborate directly with an engineering agent. Maybe one agent provides an immediate temporary workaround based on known issues.
Okay, quick fix.
while simultaneously another agent is working with the engineering agent to figure out the root cause and develop a proper long-term solution.
Ah, so they're working in parallel.
Yeah, coordinating their efforts.
Yeah.
Faster, more complete resolution for the customer.
So it's breaking down silos not just between human teams, but maybe even between different software systems that don't usually talk to each other directly.
That's the vision, yeah. The paper even suggests a future where you have widespread agent integration across different SaaS apps. And their ability to collaborate seamlessly could really start to dismantle those software silos we all struggle with in big companies.
Okay, so agents have goals, they use tools, they can collaborate, but how do they actually do things? This concept of workflows comes up.
Right, workflows. Think of them as the structured blueprints guiding an agent's actions.
Okay, like a plan.
Exactly. They define the specific steps, the tools needed, the sequence of actions to execute a process, kind of like organizational process maps, but built for these agents.
So workflows give the structure, but you also said earlier that agents are adaptable.
Yeah.
How does that balance work? That seems key.
It is the crucial point. The agent follows the logic in the workflow, right?
Right.
But it can adjust its path based on the specific context and any decision rules built in.
Okay.
Like a customer support workflow might have a rule.
Yeah.
Automatically escalate critical issues based on keywords or customer history. While less urgent stuff follows a standard path, the workflow provides the framework, but the agent intelligently adapts its execution based on the situation.
So the workflow is like the knowledge base of how things should get done.
Yeah.
And the agent is the smart executor navigating that knowledge base dynamically.
Precisely. It's this symbiotic relationship. Structure enables flexibility.
You also mentioned tools. What kind of tools are we talking about here? What can these agents use?
Tools are basically what let these LLM-powered agents, and LLM just means large language model, the AI brain, basically.
Right.
Tools let them interact with the real-world enterprise environment. Because LLMs are great at reasoning, understanding language, but they don't automatically have access to your company database or your CRM system, right?
No, of course not.
So tools bridge that critical gap. The white paper grips them into three main types. Read tools for querying data.
Okay, finding stuff.
Write tools for making changes or triggering actions in systems.
Doing stuff.
And workflows, which, like we said, let agents tap into established company processes.
So the insight here is getting beyond just keyword search to a much deeper contextual understanding of company data, which then lets the agents make smarter decisions.
That's it exactly. A read tool might let an agent search through internal docs or knowledge bases.
Makes sense.
And a write tool could, say, update contact info in Salesforce or create a new support ticket.
Got it.
The paper uses this nice analogy like a Swiss Army knife. You need a collection of specialized tools, but the real power is the agent choosing and combining them in the right sequence to do complex tasks.
So an agent could potentially use a read tool to find information.
Yep.
Then use its LLM brain to analyze that info.
Right.
And finally use a write tool to take an action based on its analysis, like a chain reaction.
That's precisely the idea.
Yeah.
By chaining these tools together intelligently, agents can make much more sophisticated, context-aware decisions and drive those adaptable workflows we were talking about.
Okay, that's starting to paint a clearer picture. Now, how do they get better? Improve over time. The white paper mentions memory.
Yeah, memory. It's similar to how we learn from experience, right? Agentic systems use memory to learn and refine their performance based on ongoing feedback.
Okay.
The paper highlights two key aspects. One is self-reflection, where the agent analyzes how well its own actions worked out.
So critiques itself.
Sort of, yeah. And the other is human feedback, which allows for personalization and helps agents develop specialized expertise in different areas.
So if an agent messes up or takes a path that isn't great, it can learn from that and adjust for next time.
That's the core idea of self-reflection. And human feedback is vital because it lets agents adapt to how you work, the nuances of different departments.
Right.
And it also helps stop the agents becoming too, generic. It preserves that valuable diversity of expertise humans have.
It really sounds like just having a powerful language model, an LLM, isn't enough for these kinds of big enterprise jobs.
You're absolutely right. While the LLM provides the basic reasoning power, the white paper really stresses that effective enterprise AI needs way more than just the model.
Okay.
They highlight several key techniques that build on the LLM. Things like retrieval augmented generation, RE, which makes sure the AI uses your company's specific data.
Ah, grounding it.
Exactly, grounding its responses. Then there are the workflows we talked about, the smart use of tools, memory for learning, and really rigorous evaluation to make sure it's accurate and effective.
So when you say RI, it means the AI isn't just using its general internet training. It's actively pulling in and using our specific company stuff.
Precisely. That's what makes the answers relevant and accurate for your business. Hugely important.
Which brings us to what feels like the core piece. Glean's agentic reasoning engine. How does this engine pull all these different parts together, orchestrate everything?
Yeah, the engine is designed to basically mimic how humans make decisions.
Okay.
It starts by understanding the user's goal, the query, the task. Then it figures out a plan to achieve that goal.
Mm-hmm.
Deciding the steps, which tools it needs, maybe even if it should delegate parts to other specialized agents.
Right.
Then it executes the plan, and finally, it evaluates the outcome, checks how it did.
So it's not just throwing a language model at a problem, it's managing this whole sequence, this whole process.
Exactly. The white paper outlines several key phases. First, query assessment, deciding the best approach. Is it simple, direct, or does it need a multi-step plan?
Uh-huh.
Then, planning, mapping out the logical steps, picking the tools, maybe finding sub-agents.
Right.
Execution is where it actually uses those tools, allows for thinking midstream, adapting as it goes.
Okay.
And finally, response, which could be a natural language explanation for you, an action taken in a system, or even an autonomous decision.
Wow. Sounds like really effective orchestration of all these moving parts is just absolutely critical for this to work well.
Totally. You need strong capabilities in each piece, the tools, the workflows, the planning logic, but also that sophisticated engine managing the interactions, making it all flow smoothly.
Let's dig a bit deeper into how these are used practically. The paper talks about users building task-based agents using just natural language. How does that actually work?
Well, Glean's agent builder seems pretty intuitive. Users can essentially just describe the steps needed to do a task by writing them out in plain English.
Seriously, just type it out.
Yeah. The system then intelligently translates those natural language instructions into a structured multi-step workflow.
That sounds incredibly user-friendly. But wait, how does the system make sure these new agents are actually effective, that they don't just duplicate stuff or worse, introduce errors?
Ah, good question. That's where this idea of workflow search comes in. It's crucial.
Okay.
When you're building a new workflow, the system proactively searches for existing ones that are similar. Not just system-built ones, but also ones specific to your organization.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't just look at content. It considers things like their past success rates, how often they're used, how recently they were updated, even who created them, their expertise.
So it uses multiple signals.
Right? It's this hybrid search approach, keywords, semantic understanding, popularity, to help you leverage best practices and build on what already works.
Like finding the golden workflows already in the company.
Precisely. And when you design a new one, you can build in branching, different paths based on conditions.
If-then logic.
Yeah, and looping, letting steps repeat and refine until you get the outcome you want.
Okay.
Plus, you can use sub-agents, smaller specialized agents for specific parts of a bigger workflow. Keeps things modular, clearer handoffs.
And how do they know if these workflows are actually performing well out in the wild?
It's a continuous evaluation process. They gather user feedback like upvotes, downvotes,
Uh-huh.
track successful usage, positive interaction rates. Workflows that consistently do well and get good feedback become those golden workflows.
And how do these agents get kicked off?
Various ways. They can run on a schedule, be triggered by an event in some system, or a user could just manually start one. But the key takeaway is that creating these powerful task agents is meant to be accessible, even for non-technical folks, just using natural language.
Now let's switch to the conversational agents, specifically the Glean Assistant. What's its role in this whole picture?
Glean Assistant is positioned as your main interface for a whole bunch of tasks. Search, creating content, analyzing data.
Your go-to helper.
Kind of, yeah. And it's personalized based on your role in the company and your past interactions.
Right.
What's really interesting is how it dynamically interprets what you ask it. For simple, direct requests, it might go for a fast, single-step action, quick answer.
Okay. Efficiency.
But for more complex or maybe ambiguous requests, it can engage in more advanced reasoning on the fly to figure out the best plan.
So it tries to be quick for easy stuff, but can handle the heavy lifting when needed.
Exactly. Optimizing for both performance speed and accuracy for the harder tasks.
Makes sense.
And it can also route your questions to specialized predefined agents.
Hmm.
Like if you ask about HR policies, Assistant can send that straight to an HR-specific agent trained on those policies. It can even use branching logic for country-specific stuff.
Yeah. You definitely don't want a general assistant guessing about specific HR
Right.
rules.
You need that specialized knowledge. And for those really complex, research-heavy tasks
Hmm.
that need digging through tons of info, Assistant has a deep research mode.
Okay, what's that?
It basically mimics how a human expert would tackle it,
Mm.
strategically querying multiple sources, pulling the info together, synthesizing it, and give you a well-structured analysis back.
Let's circle back to tools for a sec. The white paper talks about a scalable tools framework. What makes it scalable? How does that work?
Scalability comes from making sure each tool is really clearly defined. Succinct descriptions of what it does, standardized input and output formats.
Uniformity.
Exactly. That uniformity makes it way easier for the reasoning engine to pick the right tool for each step in a workflow. And again, workflow search is key here. It lets the system efficiently find and use the right tool based on the plan, whether it's picking from a fixed set or making a smarter choice based on conditions.
You mentioned read tools and specifically called out Glean search.
Hmm.
How does Glean search go beyond, say, a typical enterprise search? What's the secret sauce?
The big difference is its deep grasp of enterprise context. It goes way beyond what a general LLM knows from web training.
Okay.
Glean Search is a hybrid system. It combines several techniques. It uses a self-learning language model that's constantly customized with your company's data.
Uh-huh.
A really refined lexical search that understands language nuances in different enterprise apps like Slack or Jira,
Right, those are different.
and a comprehensive knowledge graph. This captures all the complex relationships between people, projects, documents, all the key stuff in your organization.
So it's not just matching keywords. It's understanding meaning and all the connections within the company's knowledge landscape.
Precisely. And it's built with permissions baked in, so you only see what you're allowed to see.
Crucial.
And it acts like a central Google for your company, unifying data modeling and indexing across all connected systems. The paper says an average query hits like 3 different sources.
Wow, okay. Comprehensive.
Very. To get you a relevant answer.
The white paper gives this example of a personal knowledge graph. How does that personalized layer make search better?
Okay, think about asking something like, what did I work on most this week? Or help me prep for my performance review.
Yeah, hard questions to answer sometimes.
Right. They require understanding connections between all your individual activities across different tools. The personal knowledge graph models these links, docs you edited, meetings, code commits, tickets you touched,
Mm-hmm.
and links them to inferred subtasks and bigger goals. By layering this personal context on top of the main enterprise knowledge graph, Glean can give you search results that are way more personalized and relevant to your specific needs and goals.
It's like building a custom map of your work within the bigger company picture.
Exactly. The product manager example in the paper tracking research for a PRD, finalizing pricing, shows perfectly how these scattered activities get grouped into meaningful tasks using this framework.
Now let's switch to data analysis. This feels like an area where AI could be incredibly powerful.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But the paper makes an important distinction here. Generative AI can create a range of possible outputs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Data analysis usually aims for a more deterministic answer based on systematically looking at the data.
Right, more concrete.
So for structured data, databases, spreadsheets, Glean indexes the metadata, understands the schemas. This lets agents effectively analyze data across platforms like Databricks, Salesforce, Jira.
So it knows the structure, not just the content.
Correct. For unstructured data analysis, which is trickier for LLM sometimes,
Yeah, I can imagine.
Glean focuses on accurately figuring out your intent and the scope. Are you looking at one doc or across everything? It also distinguishes between exhaustive searches find all data points versus finding the canonical, authoritative sorts of truth documents. The knowledge graph helps pinpoint those reliable sources.
And how does the analysis actually happen?
Often the agent writes and runs Python code to answer different data questions and even generate visualizations to help you understand it.
The example of listing Jira tickets and then grouping them by severity and resolution time, that really shows the agent iteratively exploring the data.
Yeah, that looping capability is key. It lets the agent refine queries, process results in stages, break down complex analysis into manageable steps until it gets a comprehensive understanding.
We've covered read tools. Now let's hit write tools, the Glean actions. What do these let agents actually do?
This is where agents really move beyond just information retrieval and get the ability to take action in your core systems.
Like what?
Things like resetting a password, updating a sales deal stage in the CRM, creating new IT support ticket.
Okay, real actions.
Real actions. Glean acts as this central hub, orchestrating these actions across lots of different enterprise apps.
So it's not just telling you what needs doing, it can actually do it for you in many cases.
Precisely. And to make this work reliably and scale, Glean uses its search smarts to find the right tool for the action and the specific API calls available in that tool. It then essentially teaches the agent about those actions, what's possible, what info it needs to provide to make it happen successfully.
The IT service desk ticket example is great. Automatically categorized, routed correctly, fields pre-populated using company data. That saves so much time.
Exactly. And you, the user, can just review and submit it right there in Glean Assistant. No need to jump to another system.
Nice.
And the example of denying a laptop upgrade based on age shows the business logic that can be built in.
Right, it's not just dumb execution.
No. The paper also mentions Glean supports open protocols like MCP and plans support for others. This will standardize how agents and tools talk, making integrations even easier down the road.
It sounds like this could take a huge chunk out of the manual grunt work and lots of routine tasks.
Absolutely. By understanding both the apps and the business rules, Glean Actions can automate stuff that usually needs a lot of manual effort and knowing multiple different systems.
The white paper also talks about designing for LLM choice. That sounds like they're flexible about which AI brain they use underneath.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Glean's positioned as an open, extensible platform. It can support various LLMs from the big providers, Anthropic, OpenAI, Google, Amazon.
Okay.
They're constantly evaluating how these different models perform, upgrading based on real-world data and feedback.
How do they keep the user experience consistent if they swap models?
They use what they call LLM judges. These basically compare how different models respond to the same prompts and tasks, helping ensure quality and consistency no matter which model is actually running behind the scenes.
So they're not locked into one AI vendor.
Yeah.
Smart.
Correct. They've moved past basic prompt engineering to a more sophisticated model-agnostic framework. They even use a Rubik's Cube analogy for the complexity of aligning instructions across different AIs.
Huh, I can see that.
Their approach now is about giving LLMs more freedom, but grounding them in examples and using those LLM judges for consistency in things like formatting and tone.
All right.
Plus, they think system level about routing queries. Smaller, cheaper models for simple tasks, route complex stuff to more specialized LLMs, smart for cost and speed.
That makes a ton of sense. Performance and cost efficiency.
Precisely. Pick the right brain for the job at hand.
Okay, last big piece, evaluating agents. How do you actually measure if these things are working effectively, hitting their goals?
Yeah. Rigorous evaluation is absolutely critical. Glean measures two main things. Did the agent achieve the overall goal of the query or task, and how effective was each tool used along the way?
Okay.
They group similar user queries into classes, data analysis, meeting prep, etc., and define clear criteria for what good looks like for each class.
Right, different tasks have different success definitions.
Exactly. Then they create these carefully curated evaluation data sets, often with manual annotations, to get human-level benchmarks.
So it's not just did it give an answer, but was it the right answer, in context, delivered efficiently?
That's it. They meticulously check each step in a workflow using detailed logs to find exactly where problems might pop up. And besides humans, they use those LLM judges again to assess performance on things like accuracy, goal achievement, correctness, which they see as accuracy plus efficiency.
Okay.
Completeness of the response and how well it's grounded in the company's actual data.
They capture user feedback, too.
Oh yeah, both explicit feedback, thumbs up, down, and implicit signals, like if you abandon a session midway, gives a fuller picture of satisfaction.
And they test the judges themselves.
Absolutely. They rigorously test the consistency of their LLM judges to make sure the evaluation process itself is reliable, not introducing its own biases.
The people seeking query evaluations, example in the paper, really brings this to life, how they categorize people-related questions and use real data to find and fix issues.
That's a great example. It shows that iterative process. Find areas for improvement, maybe tweak prompts, adjust tools, break down complex queries into smaller steps.
Right.
Like the who is my manager's manager?
Yeah.
Query, often needing multiple steps. It's this constant cycle. Apply best practices, test thoroughly, track metrics like completeness and correctness, and keep improving.
So, okay, let's try to wrap this up. The core of Glean's agentic reasoning engine seems built on a few key pillars, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Grounding agents in real enterprise context using indexing and that knowledge graph,
Crucial.
using search capabilities to scale up workflows and tool usage effectively,
Yep. Search is everywhere.
deeply understanding and refining different types of user queries,
Knowing the user's intent, yeah.
and building this open, adaptable platform that can grow with AI advancements.
That's a great summary. Ultimately, these agents boost LLMs by giving them that vital enterprise context, the right tools and workflows to act meaningfully, and ways to learn through memory and solid evaluation. And looking ahead, the paper hints that as agent networks grow, search becomes even more critical for discovery and routing actions between all these smart entities.
So for you, the listener, this deep dive into Glean agents, it really paints a picture of a potential future, doesn't it? Where dealing with all that company knowledge, that complex tool landscape, becomes much more intelligent, more autonomous.
Yeah, hopefully less overwhelming.
Instead of drowning in info or doing endless repetitive tasks, these agents aim to understand your goals and proactively help you get there. It really makes you think, how could these kinds of autonomous agents reshape your daily workflow? How could they fundamentally change how we all get work done in the enterprise?
It's a big question.
It really feels like this is just the beginning of how intelligent agents could transform the future of work.